We all have those athletes that can complete a near perfect execution of a Zone 2 workout, and this is pretty close. So not on Zwift, so Zwift actually you can get it exactly perfect. This one's outside, so let's see, let me show all the things. So actually, we'll just do a quick analysis. So if we look at the average power, bang on in Zone 2. Zone 2 for this athlete is going to be 106 to 148 watts. That's obviously Zone 1 to Zone 2. So bang on where we want to be with the power output. We're also bang on where we want to be with the heart rate. So that's all good with the averages. So duration, obviously, wow, does it get any better? Perfect. So nicely done. So for the peaks, let's actually look and we'll just show all. So obviously power looks great. There are no real peaks. Obviously these little tiny peaks are bound to happen. So not an issue for me. And then heart rate, no heart rate peaks to really speak for. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, everything, that's about as far as I'd go for that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't need to go any further.
Yeah, seems to be achieved within the zone. And the main thing I'd look at, like you, power's fine. I'd just double check heart rate to make sure it wasn't rapidly increasing. You can see the power to heart rate ratio at 3.71%. So there hasn't been a huge decoupling. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, cool. What do you think? So with these, I'm not really looking for comments all the time. Sometimes they do need them, especially if it's longer. But what do you think about this little dip in power?
Generally a turnaround for an out and back.
Yeah, I don't see any issue in that. Like, if that's all the coasting that we have in an hour and a half, yeah, pretty good. Okay, so let's look now at a workout that maybe wasn't as dialed. Let's look here at a not as good Zone 2 workout. So the first thing that we look at is the duration. So there, it was a little bit long, but actually I see this big gap here, so I'm not sure what's happening there. So I obviously need to look in a little bit further. For the averages, average power was a bit low. So the same athlete, average power is a bit low. Heart rate, maybe about the same, a little bit low. Okay, so now let's go in a little bit further. Look at the peaks. So there are a lot of spikes above Zone 2. So remember when we're doing these spikes above Zone 2 in a Zone 2 ride, we're creating an acidic environment and creating damage in the type 2 muscle fibers. We're no longer relying just on these type 1 muscle fibers. So we need to see why this is happening. So what is happening? There are some peaks. So let's figure out what's going on. Okay. Well, this makes a little bit more sense. So we can see that it was a really hilly ride. So, I don't know about for you, Will, but even if it's Zone 2, I still want to see the climbs done at Zone 2. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. For running, it's a lot easier to maintain an effort on the uphill, to not overdo it, just because of the range at which our power distributions are applied. In running, at least, it can be far easier to control it. I know with cycling, Matt, we've all been out there. You just want to keep on top of that gear. It feels more comfortable often, and we can have a look even at cadence to grind out a lower cadence step on top of a big gear, rather than spinning as winning.
Yeah, it takes a lot of self-control to be able to pull back a little bit on those climbs and be like, nope, I'm doing a Zone 2 ride, and that's it. I'm just doing a Zone 2 ride. So this one might be on trails. Let's see. Okay, maybe not so much on trails. But yeah, I mean, there are spikes going on in that Zone 2. So when I see this, I'm going to go back to the athlete and say, okay, what we need to do is we need to pull back a little bit on the intensity and get you back into that Zone 2. Save the pushing it, the Zone 3 efforts for when you do your Zone 3 rides.
Yeah, so what we can see here is just, yes, quick analysis shows duration, good. Averages, good. Peaks, not so good. You're essentially got the average okay because the massive amounts of ups and downs. And then just looking at normalized power, Matt, I see 159, which I know before you showed, I think it was like 107 to 148 for this athlete. And so normalized power is like blowing this completely out of the water for the part you've zoomed in on.
Yeah, so I'd really say that this workout missed the mark. So that's when I'd look for the athlete's comments And if there are no comments for the athlete, I'm going to go back to them and, when we catch up at the end of the month or something like that, I'm going to tell them, this is what happened, this is what we were trying to do, let's see if we can solve this. So for this particular athlete, they were able to solve this because the good Zone 2 ride that we just looked at, same athlete a year later.
Generally, the comment I see for a ride like this, Matt, is went out with the Sunday bunch.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is exactly what happens, especially for a fitter athlete or something. Like, they'll ride with a bunch and everyone's going to ride too hard, but then they keep going and they're like, now I'm like 10 bike lengths ahead, and then pull back the intensity. So it's not like a great training session. It probably felt.
And there's
hard.
also, if you zoom out, Matt, there's this big block where, this athlete's most probably stopped for a coffee.
Yeah.
And at times, you've got a 6-hour endurance ride on your Sunday, and you've got all day to do it. Like, yeah, overall, you're looking for time in the saddle, overall chronic stimulus of the endurance type 1 muscle fibers. But when you only have, this is where we go back to that prescription, and you only have a certain amount of time, you need to be efficient with that time. And I see this a lot, and I try to get the athletes out of it in terms of just, look, try and do that at the end. And maybe that's why there's a 15 minutes over the hour and a half in this, as it was at the end of the main meat of the ride and a ride home. But if you are doing a 2-hour ride and stopping for 30 minutes in the middle to have a slice of cake and a coffee, often you're negating what that effort is trying to, the stimulus it's trying to induce.